When you drive a new car off the lot, you get a good strong windshield that is held in place by a durable adhesive. But at some point, you might have to replace it. And that's when you could get yourself into trouble. You see, there's a right way and a wrong way to replace a car windshield. Many shops do it the wrong way, and that can put your safety at risk. Most of us don't give our car's windshield a second thought. But just imagine if it weren't there. A windshield does more than give you a clear view of the road. It's a vital part of your vehicle. A windshield does three things to protect you in an accident. It helps prevent you from being ejected. It supports the passenger side airbag when it deploys. And it helps stop the roof from crushing during a rollover. So if the windshield pops out in an accident like this, you lose all that protection. The driver of this car was on his way home from work when he lost control on a slippery road. The car hit a telephone pole, the windshield came out, and he was ejected. He was not wearing a seatbelt. He survived, but he was in a coma for several hours. The consequences were more tragic in this accident. 3 girls were riding to school in this sport utility truck when the driver lost control and rolled over. The windshield popped out and a 15-year-old girl was ejected. She died at the scene. She was not wearing a seatbelt. But wearing a seatbelt doesn't guarantee your safety if your windshield isn't there.
If there is a passenger side airbag, there's no point in having it because
Jeff Bull is with Essex Adhesives in Dayton, Ohio. The company supplies windshield adhesives to North American automakers. Bull says current airbag designs rely on the windshield.
It's like a backboard for the airbag. The passenger side airbag actually deploys off the windshield. So if it's not bonded properly, then the windshield could virtually be pushed out of the vehicle, and then the airbag would end up on the outside instead of the inside of the car. So you have the passenger going at the instrument panel or at the opening with nothing there to stop them.
Another severe consequence of losing your windshield is roof crush.
The top of the car, if it rolls over, because the support is not there from the glass, the A-pillars and everything would collapse, and it would cause the roof to collapse in on top of the passengers inside the vehicle.
The roof of this sport utility vehicle caved in when the truck rolled over and the windshield flew out. The driver survived with minor injuries, but he needed firefighters to free him. Windshields have to meet federal standards when they're installed in new cars to make sure they provide the necessary protection. But if your windshield is replaced, there are no guarantees it will be done right.
The ultimate test is putting the car in a collision, and unfortunately, you could be dead as a result of an improper installation.
Blaine McElray is an auto glass installer in Sudbury, Ontario. When he replaces windshields for his customers, he often finds out the job was done wrong the previous time. Close to 1 million windshields are replaced each year in Canada. Thousands of those are installed improperly. A windshield installation isn't difficult to do, but there are steps which should be followed to make sure it's done right. The old adhesive has to be taken off. Primers need to go on the body and on the glass. Then the adhesive, urethane, is applied. And the windshield is put in place and left to sit so the urethane can cure. Curing time is one of the major problems with improper installations. Many installers don't let cars sit long enough to make sure they're safe to drive away.
If you're not given enough time for the product to cure, what will happen is you'll end up with a situation where the urethane will be wet in the center, and in the event of an accident, it could very well, that's going to be its weak point. It's going to let go at its weakest point.
Different urethanes have different minimum cure times. To hold your windshield in place with a passenger side airbag, some urethanes need up to 6 hours. But to provide maximum protection and prevent roof crush, urethane has to cure for 24 hours. And it takes a lot longer in the winter. Curing time is a problem, but there's an even greater concern. Many installers try to cut corners to save time and money. Often that means using something other than urethane to hold the windshield in place.
We've seen all kinds of things such as silicone, bathtub caulking, various types of adhesives that we don't even recognize.
But the most common is butyl. Butyl was used to install windshields until the early 1970s. But it's only a sealant, not an adhesive. And butyl never cures. It stays soft and sticky like chewing gum. So it doesn't matter how long an installer holds a customer's car, because the bond never gets any stronger. Add to that the cost incentive. Butyl is half the price of urethane. That explains why many installers continue using it.
This is butyl here. As you can see, there's no strength, it just pulls apart.
We visited a scrapyard with Blaine McElray.
Here again we have more butyl when it should be a urethane set windshield. Once again, butyl was used instead of urethane. Just stretches like gum.
About half the cars we found in this yard, which were missing windshields, had butyl as the adhesive. With some cars, even if the windshield is still in, you can tell whether it's been installed with butyl or urethane. If you can feel between the A-pillar and the windshield on the inside of the car, and it feels soft like putty, it's butyl. If it feels hard, like rubber, it's urethane. This windshield was installed with butyl. Let's see how strong the bond is. Keep in mind, the impact of a crash would be sudden, and the forces far greater than this. The windshield on this Jeep flew out when it hit a telephone pole and rolled over. The windshield had been installed using butyl. The owner of the Jeep had it painted several months earlier, and that's when the windshield was replaced. This is where the Jeep was painted, Pro Choice Auto Center in Toronto. The owner is Nick Karachenko. He doesn't believe the butyl had anything to do with why the Jeep's windshield popped out.
Okay. So, because you see, if the vehicles roll over, all the frame is gone, is bent, and the windshield's out.
Yeah, but the windshield, if it's properly installed, is supposed to support the frame, right?
The windshield is not supposed to be the windshield of the vehicle, right? It's not support the frame. Windshield to protect from the wind, from whatever is going to be on front on the driver.
But Karachenko says he doesn't do windshield installations himself. He hires an installer.
And are you aware of what they use, butyl or urethane? Do you know?
I cannot tell you because I know they are professionals. They have to do the work done proper way.
Apparently they're not doing it the proper way, though. The windshield popped out.
Yeah, but you see that's...
Karachenko uses various installers, and he isn't sure who installed the Jeep windshield. Blaine McElray thinks some installers just don't know any better because they never received any training. And he partly blames the large chain operations, since that's where most installers get their start, including himself.
I received no training. I learned strictly on the job. I remember the first time I read a manual, it said, warning, don't operate vehicle for 24 hours. I thought that was a misprint. I couldn't believe that the cars had to sit for 24 hours.
Blaine McElray says getting your windshield replaced is risky business, and he doubts things will get better on their own. He thinks the only real solution is to regulate the glass installation business and to make training mandatory.
Basically, it's left up to each installer to what level of safety he's going to offer their customers. And I don't think it's a matter of opinion. I think we should follow the manufacturer's specifications to how the vehicle should be repaired.
So what do you do if you have a chipped or cracked windshield that needs to be replaced? Well, Blaine McElray's advice is pretty good. Try to get it replaced the same way the car maker installed it in the first place. Ask the shop you go to if they do follow the car maker's specifications. Make sure they use urethane. If they want to keep your car for only a short time, ask questions. Find out what the proper cure times are for the adhesive they use. Remember, it can take 24 hours to reach a full cure, even longer if the weather is cold. And if the shop tells you they use butyl to hold windshields in place, we suggest you take your car somewhere else.